Great, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in Houston. I would have loved to be there in person, and I look forward to visiting the mayor and the great city of Houston soon. I wanted to say it was about 6 months ago that I met Mayor Turner at Texas Medical Center. And from the first 5 minutes of meeting the mayor, I saw the incredible positive energy and the passion. I always mention to my fireside guest that I look, when I invest in startups, the idea and the technology and the market is important. But if you do not have the entrepreneur passion, nothing works. And I believe that in every position as a leader, the passion and the interest to make a difference is the most important. Mayor Turner, you have a responsibility of the fourth largest city in America with 7 million people, one of the most diverse cities in the world, with 1/4 of the population being immigrants. May I ask, when was it the first moment you were approached with this challenge of COVID-19? And if you remember, what was the first few hours like, or the first few days? And it's wonderful having you here with us, Mayor.
Thank you, Sayed, and it's wonderful to be with you and everyone else that's a part of this webinar. And I certainly would prefer to be with you in person as well as with everyone else. So thank you, and look, and really appreciate Plug and Play coming to the city of Houston. Let me just say I was following what was taking place in Wuhan, China, even towards the end of December of last year into January. In fact, I started talking about what was occurring in Wuhan in February of this year. And then I met with some of the leaders of the Texas Medical Center in February for us just to start kind of preparing if by chance the virus should come to the United States. It was in the first week in March that we started having to respond to it, taking some preventive actions. It was in the first week in March, for example, that the CERAWeek conference, the energy conference that's normally held that is in Houston in the second week in March, and it's been held in Houston for the last 30 plus years, that conference was rescheduled because of the virus. And then it was in that at the end of the first week, going to the second week, that we had a few cases, but they were all internationally related, travel related. Let me put it that way. It was not until March the 10th when we had a case where it was not travel related and seemed to indicate it was community spread at our Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, which is one of the largest events in the United States and the largest rodeo in the world. It was at that point in time on March 10th, we decided it was time to take some action. And it was the very following day on March the 11th when the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo came to an end. That was the first case of community spread in the city of Houston.
Yes, like one of my talks, I had a talk with Mayor Park of Seoul, Korea. And, from my point of view, for such a large city that you manage, it seems like you have been able to contain this virus very well. with keeping some of the main essential construction and some of the main essential amenities open. How do you feel the balance between getting the economy going and taking care of your health of your city? How do you keep that balance as a leader, and what sort of day-to-day challenges or reviews do you have?
It's a very delicate balance, especially when you're facing a healthcare crisis and you're facing something that you cannot see. You know, this city has faced several major challenges, weather related, for example, since I've been mayor and even before. I mean, we've had major flooding events. We experienced Harvey, for example, in August of 2017. More rain fell on this city than any other city in the United States in the history of our country. So we've been battle tested, and now we were being confronted along with everybody else with this pandemic virus. I will tell you that even though we closed or rescheduled or shut down a number of things, for those businesses that were deemed essential based on the federal standard, for example, we never closed them. We never closed them down. So to give you an example, for residential and commercial construction, that part of our commerce continued. Road construction continued. The building, for example, of housing, multifamily developments, all of that continued. We're having a major, for example, renovation at the Museum of Fine Arts here in the city of Houston, with a scheduled opening in the fall of this year. That continued. In fact, I toured the Museum of Fine Arts just this weekend. So those things, continue. We never closed them down. Now, those businesses, for many of them, they opted to work remotely, but they were never shut down, for example, by the city. In terms of our parks, for example, I've kept our parks open, with the exception of one weekend, and that was the Easter weekend. We closed the parks for that Saturday and Sunday, but they open again on Monday. So it's been a very delicate balance. Having said that, our retail sector has been hit because restaurants, things of that nature, did close. Our malls, a number of other retail establishments were shut down or closed for the months of the end of March, April, going into May. So they were hit hard. Conventions, conferences, for example, all of them, for example, were either canceled or rescheduled. So the tourism, convention, entertainment sectors, those areas were hit very hard. When it comes to, of course, transportation, airline industry, you name it, hit hard. And when you ask people to stay home, a lot of people off the road. So it's been a very delicate balance that we've had to strike. But businesses were across the board were never shut down. We just chose to operate a bit differently, but many aspects of our e-commerce continued. And I'm very appreciative to how everyone cooperated, because relatively speaking, when you look at our numbers at other major cities or some cities similar to our size, our numbers have been comparatively low. As of today, the number of deaths that have been reported in the city of Houston is 126. At most, we've never reported more than 6 people dying in any single day, at most 6. So it's 126 as of today. A quarter of them have come from our nursing homes, unfortunately. 3 have come from, for example, our jails. And then in terms of the number of people who have tested positive as of today, that number is a little over 6,600, 6,600. So I give a lot of credit to the people in our city and how people have responded. I know people are tired or weary of being at home, but we have now started to reopen our economy For restaurants, for example, they're operating at 50% of capacity. For our bars and clubs and other establishments, they're operating at 25% of their capacity. And so we are starting to move forward as of June 1st. I'm bringing a number of employees, for example, back to the city of Houston, and some other things will open as we move forward in June and July.
Very good, Mayor. You know, like this working from home has really opened my eyes. Even though I run a technology shop, I always like to see our people start with the morning meeting and different verticals like sustainability vertical or oil and energy vertical going to clean energy. But now I have seen it is possible to run a great team. I still like the face-to-face meeting, but do you feel this will change the way we work? There could be like a hybrid that like Facebook, Google, Twitter have announced they will forever allow people to work from home. Do you feel like this will be a competitive advantage for Houston and for Texas to have a technology jobs with these high-tech innovative companies because of your lower cost and all Texas have to offer? I noticed you wrote a letter to Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and hopefully we will have a production facility in Houston. What are your thoughts about this?
Quite frankly, Saeed, I'm a little excited about what the future holds. I will tell you a number of our city employees in various departments have been working remotely. And I've looked at the reports on a weekly basis. In some cases, their performance is even greater working remotely. For example, our 311 call takers, for example, their response, their efficiency rate is significantly greater than when they were all working together. So in some aspects, even as of June 1st, where we see that we have derived greater efficiencies and people are performing at a higher level, I'm not going to change that operation. They will continue to work virtually or remotely, and we'll see how that continues to go. And then we'll continue to look at their performance matrix. I think in fact, and give you another example, you know, we spend billions of dollars on our capital improvement projects, big capital programs, buildings, you know, buildings, for example, constructing buildings. We are now taking a second look at our capital improvement program because what we are seeing now is that we need to invest more in technology because even when this COVID-19 has passed, and hopefully it will pass soon, or we'll come up with a vaccine, there will be something else. And so we're recognizing that the greater use of technology is in our future. And so we are changing, not just looking at how we can erect or construct buildings, but now I am investing more money into technology because we have to create a much more nimble society. And for example, Marissa Aho is my director, my chief resilience officer. And so just like we learned after Hurricane Harvey, that we needed to build a city that was stronger, more resilient, and more sustainable, we also now have added another section to our resilience plan in dealing with these type of viruses, that we need to build a stronger, more resilient, and more sustainable city. And technology is a vital part of it. We have to create a nimble society. So regardless of what comes down the road, we can continue to function, we can continue to support our businesses, and I think other businesses are learning the same thing as well.
Wonderful. You know, one of the reason why we wanted to open Plug and Play in Houston is to be closer to our corporate partners. And specifically, when we for example, would love to challenge of safety or sustainability, we feel this comes from collaboration of entrepreneurs and startup and the power of large corporations like ExxonMobil,
Right.
Chevron, and this combination creates jobs and creates energy. And we would love, Mayor, work with the city in our smart city program, work with the Port of Houston in improving the whole supply chain and logistic. I believe Houston port is the largest port for export. And how is the city involved in uh, the rail traffic, the truck traffic? How can we use the power of entrepreneurs to make a sustainable, long-term positive impact? Because I
Well,
know you're passionate about startups as well.
yes. I mean, look, we have, when you look at this city, the energy capital of the world, and I'm not just talking about oil and gas, they are a vital component, but the energy capital, and within the energy sector, there's a great deal of innovation that's taking place in those sectors. The healthcare delivery system, the world's largest medical center, is right here in the city of Houston. As you mentioned, our port, the Port of Houston, is the #1 port in the United States in terms of foreign tonnage. So all of that exists. NASA Space Center, all that's here. Even now in our conversations, we are talking about how can we create a much better system of transporting goods and services as well as people. And so we are focusing right now on a major construction highway project, about $7.5 billion. And a part of this construction is how do we create this new paradigm where we can move goods and services and people in a much more efficient way. And we are tying in all of the sectors, the key sectors within the city of Houston: energy, healthcare delivery, transportation, the port, for example. So there are tremendous opportunities that exist within our city. The corporations are here. They are working with us, for example, in many different ways. 20 years ago, for example, you would not have heard of our energy companies, oil and gas companies, working, for example, on a climate action plan. But now you have Shell, for example, that has underwritten our resilient strategies, part of the 100 Resilient Cities Network. And so you've got Shell involved. City of Centerpoint, for example, has underwritten our climate action plan. So they are part of that. Shell has been very active in our renewable energy sources. BP, for example, has supported our climate action plan. So that's happening in the city of Houston, the energy capital of the world, because we recognize that if we want to continue to be the capital, that we have to be resilient and we have to come up with innovative strategies and utilize technology in a very real way. So if you will allow me to say this, I don't think that there's another city anywhere in the world that have all of the different elements that when they come together can really speak to the future of where not only our country is going, but where we're going globally.
Wonderful. In fact, I had a fireside chat with Fabian, the manager of Shell Oil in Germany. And, Shell has committed to $2 billion or 2 billion euro per year to diversify their energy production to clean energy. And we feel working with the city, working with multinationals like Shell, like SABIC of Saudi Arabia, which has a big presence in Houston, we could really jumpstart the clean energy movement of solar, wind, battery technology in Houston. And how can we bridge these technologies, if it comes from Silicon Valley, from Tesla, or if it comes from Mercedes in Stuttgart, and how does City of Houston help these large corporations in their journey toward sustainable and production and distribution of clean energy?
I'll say that quite frankly, I think everything that you're saying aligns very perfectly with where the city of Houston is right now and where we're going. You may not be aware, but as of July the 1st, we will become the city of Houston in terms of the public corporation will be 100% renewable. We just entered into a contract that would make us 100%. And I just got off talking to a key energy magazine, and basically they were surprised that that's taking place in the city of Houston, the energy capital of the world. So that's occurring. The climate action plan, that's moving forward. We've already established, for example, a key task force, Evolve Houston, dealing with the use of electric vehicles, for example. That's why, I wrote the letter to Elon Musk saying that this Houston is the place that you would want to take a look at. We recognize, for example, when you look at what the city has done over an extended period of time, this is the city that has purchased more renewables than any other city in the country. And a lot of people from around the world, they look at us simply in one dimension, but we are oil and gas, no question about that, and we are proud of the companies that exist. But the companies that exist in the city of Houston are also diversifying, recognizing the importance of creating this innovative ecosystem, clean energy, renewables, wind, solar, you name it. All of those are key ingredients. What we've discovered, for example, from this coronavirus, when a lot of vehicles were off the road and our environment became even better, this question is now how do we continue to move forward as the economy opens up again, and then recognize that I'm the vice president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors on Clean Energy. Myself, Mayor Garcetti, Mayor Wash out of Boston, we all adhere to the Paris Agreement, and now there are 437 mayors across the country who are supportive. But, I am one of those leaders right here in the city of Houston. So the city is moving in what I would call it's almost in many ways like a paradigm shift in the city of Houston. The opportunities are immense right here in the city. Even though the energy sector has been hard hit with the coronavirus, that's for this moment in time. And what I would say to people when you look at this city, I remember in the 1980s when the energy sector was hard hit and we rebounded. I remember in 2007 when the city was hard hit, in 2007, 2008, and we have rebounded. And even though we have been hit hard with this coronavirus, one thing I know about the city, which I was born and reared and still live, highly resilient. People rally. We do come together. The talent is immense. The diversity in our city is an asset. And so all of these elements are working in our favor. A young population and people are just, that can-do spirit that existed when I was coming up in the city as a boy, that can-do spirit is very much alive and well. And now when I went to Silicon Valley, I was so impressed by what I saw and that entrepreneurial spirit. And so now we're encouraging people, and I'm glad that you all are here in the city of Houston. We say, we can't duplicate, in a sense, Silicon Valley, but we can be creative and innovative in creating hashtag Silicon Bayou.
Thank you. I say that, it is not a zero-sum game. Like, let's
True.
say if we have more electric cars, more battery technology, more solar, it's good for everybody, including the energy companies. Specifically, Alliance to End Plastic Waste includes the top 30 corporations in the world all the oil, chemical companies, and now it has gone to close to 60 of the largest corporations. And we are so pleased to power the innovation platform and the accelerator for them in US, in Paris, and in Singapore. And I would love to ask for your assistance, because one of the hubs that we would like to do recycling, having a better product that can decompose better. We would love to have the city waste management company involved, the oil companies involved, the plastic petroleum companies involved. And again, before this COVID-19, I committed 30% of my time to implement these sustainability initiatives the same way as we have done in technology. And Mayor Turner, do you think this is feasible? What I'm saying, is it a dream or is it implementable in Houston?
Well, it's implementable, and in part we are doing this, Saeed, already. Recycling, recyclables is a big part of my agenda here. When I came in 4 years ago, for example, the economic benefit of recycling was going out of the door. Where people were paying us to recycle, it was now costing the city more. And so we've entered into a very innovative way of recycling that is pretty much has been cost efficient for us, where we're talking about plastic and glass and aluminum, and created a state-of-the-art recycling facility, primarily driven by technology, right here in the city of Houston. Another thing that we're looking at doing in the city, there are a number of areas in our city and in communities that have been underserved and under-resourced, where there are contaminated landfills from where people have just dumped garbage over an extended period of time, primarily in underserved communities. In one area, for example, there's 300 contiguous acres of contaminated land, which has pulled down that community. It's a community of color. And so they have not been able to progress. What we're looking at on that is taking those 300 contaminated acres and turning that into the largest urban form, a solar urban form in the city, in the United States. And so technology is going to be a very important component, because not only do you take land that has been unused, but you turn it into reusable space. You change it to purposeful space. It can be income producing, jobs can be created, and then it uplifts the people in those communities at the same time. So I look forward to joining with you. I'm very committed to that. I think that is important. I think it benefits people on multiple levels, and innovative technology in this space would benefit so many people.
You know, Mayor Turner, I would love to answer some of the question of the audience, but I must tell you something. You know, like I really enjoy, like last night, I listened to the speech of President Obama of 1995 when he addressed Cambridge, I believe, University. But I listened to all of his speeches, and the way he unites people, because I am an immigrant from Iran. You have a lot of immigrants in Houston.
Yes.
And I believe this talent, like Microsoft CEO is from India, Google CEO is from India. Recently of January, IBM CEO is from an immigrant background. And I believe the power of people uniting toward the cause create energy and results.
I agree.
including fighting this COVID-19. So again, I wanted to mention that because I have learned to enjoy the different great speeches of the world, and I hope we can do something together in Houston that we can be incredibly proud of together.
Well, let me just say in this, when you look at this city, you are looking at the face of the world, because one quarter of the people in this city come from someplace else outside of the United States. 1 out of 4 Houstonian is foreign born. But it's, and we are proud to say that the city of Houston, we say, is the most diverse city in the United States. Certainly it is one of the most diverse cities in the United States. But what I would also tell you, if we start and stop there, we're missing the mark, because you can be diverse, separate, segregated, and apart. The question is, can you be diverse and inclusive at the same time? Because that's where you gain your strength. That's when you build a stronger, resilient, and more sustainable community. And in the city of Houston, we seek not only to be diverse, but to be inclusive. And so when you look at, for example, the administration that we have put together here in the city of Houston, it reflects that diversity. An African-American mayor, the police chief, the fire chief, for example, are Hispanic. My finance director is Asian. The head of public works, for example, is the first woman in the history, the 183-year history of this city. So the diversity is there at the table, inclusive. Muslims who are working in key administrative positions here at the city of Houston. And you want that reflected throughout the fabric. And I will say to you, one of the reasons why we were able to overcome Harvey in a quick period of time was because of that diversity. And it is that same diversity that will enable us to bounce back from this coronavirus. So I join with you. I share with you that the intellectual capital that we have in this city is because we are deriving that capital from people who have come from all over the globe, who now find themselves living in the city of Houston.
Wonderful. And I echo what you say, and also say, you know, one of our newest unicorn is Honey, which PayPal purchased for $4 billion. It is the most successful high-tech company out of Los Angeles. And we were lucky enough to invest in the company when it was 2 people. Now they are more than 500 high technology jobs in Los Angeles. And we really look forward to doing the same in Houston and connecting them with our VC friends here. And quite frankly, there is a lot of money in Houston. We just have to put it to good use and tell all of our wealthy, people to invest in startups as an angel and mentor our startups. But with that, Mayor, I love to hear, how many startups, Payal is a good cue, is in Houston, and realistically, we can help 100 of them per year minimum. And I would love to invest in minimum 20 per year in Houston. So if you have any good startup, Mayor, please let me know.
I shall, and I'm so excited that you are here in the city of Houston. Look, this is fertile ground, okay? This is fertile ground. We tell everybody, if you can't make it in Houston, you can't make it anywhere. And people are adventurous, they're creative, they're innovative, they dream big. As we say, either go big or go home, okay? So in this city, we go big. The can-do spirit is very much alive. There is no reason why the city of Houston should not be at the top of the list when we're talking about startups and innovation. There's no reason, and that's why we are not just walking into this ecosystem. I mean, we are literally jogging and sprinting into this new ecosystem, because this is a this is, I believe, one of the best places to be when you start talking about investing in startup opportunities. So I'm excited that you're here. And my job as the mayor of the city of Houston is to do everything we can to support you and others in making it work. We don't want to be in your way as a city. We just want to be supportive and then allow you to do what you do best.
Thank you so much. And maybe see if you can answer one or two questions from the audience. Go ahead, Kyle.
Sure.
Yeah. So thank you again, Mayor Turner, for being willing to answer some questions.
Sure.
We've had quite a few come in, and one in particular we think you might address is, what are the city's plans in diversifying our industrial base beyond just oil and gas and healthcare?
Well, those are key sectors for us, but we also recognize that we have to diversify and expand in so many other areas. And that's why, we're putting a lot of emphasis, for example, on creating this new innovative ecosystem. We were lagging behind when I came in, but now we're off and we're jogging and running. In terms of our cultural centers, we're really spending a lot of investing a great deal. Just like I mentioned, the Museum of Fine Arts, for example, that is a $450 million project, and it will be a destination center when all is said and done. So we want to go beyond. We're the energy capital of the world, largest medical center in the world. The Johnson Space Center is right here, the #1 port in terms of foreign tonnage, establishing and building out our ecosystem, manufacturing, logistics, all that's critically important. And we are looking for new opportunities to come in and exist. So if you've got an idea, I think this is the best place to bring that idea. We'll help you make it work. And then we'll rely on people like Saeed and Plug and Play to invest in it and turn it into a unicorn.
That's great. So I actually live here and can attest to one of these questions. We've got the Texas Medical Center as a crown jewel, and NASA also calls us home. Do you see any opportunity in crossover between these industries or collaboration between them?
Payal, it is already occurring. The energy sector and the healthcare delivery sector are already working hand in hand. So there are cross opportunities, cross-pollination that's already occurring. What was happening, for example, in the city of Houston, a lot of innovation was taking place in the different sectors, but there were like silos. So in the energy sector, there was innovation occurring, startups there. In the healthcare delivery system, same thing. In other industries like manufacturing, it was occurring. Space Center, it was occurring. But they were not integrated. So what we are doing now, and we are very intentional about it, is creating this integrated, robust ecosystem where people are working much more collaboratively with one another. And what we have discovered in the city of Houston, we had everything that other places had in other cities across the world. We were just not playing well together in an integrated, robust fashion. Now we are doing that, and you will see that this ecosystem in the city of Houston is now taking off. The dollars are here, the venture capital is here. We're encouraging others to bring their dollars here and invest, but the talent is a very young population, the diversity, a regulatory system that gets out of your way, not in your way. All of those elements we believe are conducive for growth and investment and opportunity in the city.
Totally agree with you, Mayor Turner. A question for both Saeed and Mayor Turner. How can early stage hardware and clean tech companies best interact with both Plug and Play and the city of Houston in scaling up their technologies?
If I may take a first crack at it, historically, Plug and Play invested in 95% software companies. But specifically, when we are interested in mobility and IoT, as well as smart city, as well as End Plastic Waste Alliance, we have to have more hard tech. And I think, I still believe it takes longer, it takes more money, but we are committed to working with our corporate partner that after the pilot, if the project has economic unit profitability, then we can mobilize TPG Rise Fund, which I have a good relationship with, as well as Exxon, Chevron, Shell. They all committed to investing in this hardware and recycling and what I call combination of software technology and hardware technology combined. But I believe Houston needs that also because of the base of the energy companies and transportation that is there. But Mayor, what do you think?
No, I agree with you. And I think you can see that in the policies that we put in place. I mean, the city of Houston now has a first ever climate action plan that speaks to all of that. With our major task force in dealing with electric vehicles called Evolve Houston, you have the commitments from like NRG, Shell, University of Houston, Centerpoint, so the commitment is there. When it comes to transportation, we recognize that we have to be innovative. It's not just about building roadway capacity, but it's also about establishing greater transit opportunities and multimodal opportunities and producing, doing things in a way that will be good for our environment. And so there are opportunities in that end. So the policies in the city of Houston will be conducive to all of the things, Saeed, that you talked about. We are aligning ourselves because you don't want to have companies coming in with these ideas and then the city of Houston is in a different direction. So the alignment is there, and now we can all move together in a very progressive way. And again, you know, I'm hoping that people like Elon Musk will take a look at a place like the city of Houston and see this as fertile ground. And also from a regulatory capacity, because you can have the greatest ideas, but if the regulatory system gets in your way, then it will take a long time to get things developed. We try to minimize our regulatory constraints, get out of your way, be more supportive, and we want you to invest.
That's great.
So I lived in Houston during Harvey, and I witnessed your leadership and ability to deploy resources, Mayor Turner. So we've had a few questions related to if you have plans or a task force set up for Houstonians returning back to work safely, and a plan or a task force to make sure our long-term critical infrastructure is sustainable.
And the answer is yes. In fact, the Chief Recovery Officer for me is Marvin Odom. Marvin is the former CEO of Shell Energy. So Marvin is leading the effort. As we speak right now, a number of those task forces are meeting because the goal is to put forth strategies and plans, not just for the short term, but for the long term as well. We recognize that this recovery is critically important. It's not just about getting past this particular virus, but how do we rebuild our economy, and not only rebuild it, but how do we make it even better than it was prior to? And that's one of the things that we learned from Harvey. It's not, if you talk about building things back, then that's already a failed philosophy. So it's not about building back, it's how do we build forward? How do we learn from what we have gone through and put ourselves in a better position so that the economy can thrive even more the next time around? And then lastly, what I was saying, you know, sometimes people look at you and they count you out. They say, okay, Houston is the energy capital of the world. The energy, our companies got hard hit, so maybe Houston is yesterday. No, Houston is never yesterday. We are futuristic in our thinking. We're very resilient. People come together like never before when we are challenged. That diversity is a part of our strength. As long as those elements are in place, then we are situated quite nicely for our future. So we are putting forth those strategies, but a part of it first is getting your mindset in place that this is just, you know, from every challenge there's an opportunity. Now let's find the opportunities and let's learn how we can build forward and not talking about, returning to where we were yesterday.
Fantastic. We've had a question come in about, with the recent oil price downturn and coronavirus, there have been a series of layoffs, and now there's more labor market liquidity. Is there a silver lining here?
Well, yes, because there's a lot of talent out there. From the city of Houston point of view, for example, we're looking at a lot of that talent. There are companies, for example, in the private sector that have laid people off who are very skillful. That intellectual capital that's out there is what we're looking for. So I believe that there are a number of opportunities across the board for people to take advantage of that talent that exists. And just like anything, salaries that people were getting, you may be able to get it, not having to pay as much, but that's just in the short term. Because what we do know is that as things move forward and as things open up, and we're living in a competitive environment, ideas will generate opportunities, investments will occur, and the economy will take off. There was nothing in a sense wrong with our economy prior to this pandemic. This was a healthcare crisis that led to an economic crisis. And so as we get past this healthcare crisis and open up, then I believe opportunities will come forward. But there's a lot of talent out there that's just waiting to be picked up and utilized.
Wonderful. And we're coming up on our time, so this will be the last question. So Plug and Play started its office here last fall. And this question is actually on behalf of me and Saeed. So I'm taking liberties here. What can we and our team do to help you and the city?
Look, you all have benefited so many companies around the globe. You've taken people who came with an idea, and you've turned that idea into an entrepreneurial gold mine in so many ways. You've given feet to an idea, and now those companies are hiring and they're employing people and they're helping out in so many different areas, and that's what we need. The exciting part when I went out to Silicon Valley and talked to Saeed and looked at that wall, Saeed is a serial investor, okay? And when you can listen into somebody's idea and see the potential, even when they may not see the full potential themselves, that is terrific. That's what we need in the city of Houston. We need people who are willing to have the capability of taking an idea, investing in that idea, and then turn it into reality. That's Houston, okay? And Plug and Play lines up so well with Houston. And this is not a city of yesterday. This is a city of, if you want to know where the country is going, look at the city of Houston. And so I just can't thank you enough, Saeed and Plug and Play, Payal and Michael and all of you for being in this city. I'm committed to working very closely with you so that you will say 5 years from now, 20 years from now, that this is one of the best decisions that you made. And just like you've been very instrumental in Silicon Valley, well, thank you for having given birth to hashtag Silicon Value. Our future is much, much brighter than our past.
Thank you so much, Mayor Turner. It's really inspiring to listen to your passion and energy, and I look very much forward to seeing you soon in Houston. Thanks you so much.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you. Appreciate you. Be safe.
Thanks so much. Thank you.